Good afternoon,
Welcome,
everyone.
everybody. This is the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley, and we are very happy that you have joined us for our program for this week. Every week, we do our best to highlight things involved in innovation and entrepreneurship and education as they relate to service, and we tell stories about people doing wonderful things with companies, with nonprofit organizations, with their Rotary clubs, and just try to generally inspire people to make the world a better place. So we're glad you've joined us. This week, our speaker is Chip Bowness. Chip is a Canadian who has been involved in projects all over the world. I'm going to let him tell you about that in far more detail. But settled in Bangkok, where he decided he needed to join Rotary, which is, of course, a very, very honorable choice on his part. So, with that, I want to actually bring my intro down to next to nothing and hand the podium over to Chip. And Chip, welcome to the eClub of Silicon Valley.
Thanks, Rushton. Really good, and thanks for that applause. Much appreciated. I titled this "Why I Joined Rotary," and the reason was because just over 4 years ago, I really had no idea what Rotary was, except for a bunch of gear wheel signs on nearly every town that I entered in Canada or the United States, and some other places. But I thought I'd just give a little of what got me to that point to join. I'm a former combat engineer in the Canadian Army. I served in 8 countries, and that experience culminated for me in going into the international development field. I first became interested. I won't say that I was involved in international development in Cambodia in 1996 when I was the senior military officer in Cambodia with the demining organization, and stayed there for 2 years. And we managed to get the casualty rate down from 300 people a month to 150 in those 2 years. It was a serious problem at the time, and we had about 2,500 deminers working, and we really achieved something. But what it did was open my eyes to the huge differences between what we have and what they didn't have, and that had an impact on me, a serious impact, and a lot of the things that went on, especially, got through to me and made me aware that no one person can solve a big problem. No one person can solve it. And the worst feeling that you get in those situations is, I am not able to do anything here. I walked away from that feeling like someday I would come back. And I did. I went to Korea after that for 3 years as a defense attaché. And then when I finished there, I joined the UN in Lebanon. And in Lebanon, we were doing demining again. This time I was back in the Army, so to speak, as a civilian. And there I managed to write a national plan for Lebanon for removing landmines and what are called explosive remnants of war. All of this was under the framework of the United Nations Development Program. They were the UN organization, along with another organization that did actual demining itself, were responsible for getting governments motivated to take care of landmine problems. Once again, though, I encountered the local situation and saw lots and lots of people who were in various forms of dire straits. Really much more complicated in Lebanon, with 17 factions operating, Muslims, Christians, and all the people in between. So once again, I walked away from a situation thinking, I wish I could do more. And then I walked away from that situation because I got a job in Bangkok. Once again with the UNDP, United Nations Development Program. And that job was now the Asia region landmine coordinator. And my role was to get governments from 8 countries to take over 100% management of their own landmine problems. That worked to a certain degree, but in a place like Afghanistan, where I was for 6 months, there was no capacity to do that. And there I found a new level, beyond in some cases that in Cambodia, of bad situations, and thoroughly complicated by winter, cold temperatures, and misery, and again complicated by the religious differences and so on. So again, I walked away from a situation because of the job out of Afghanistan, and carried with me again the idea that maybe I could do something somewhere sometime. I went to Israel then, and West Bank, and I saw, after almost 3 years there, what was really going on. And I won't even go into any of that, but once again, I saw bad situations. And once again, I had the feeling there's nothing I, as an individual, can do. So that ended in 2009, and in 2010, I was involved with the Olympics via my son here in Vancouver. And in 2011, I was back in Bangkok, and then someone invited me to a Rotary lunch, and I went. And it seemed like be a good group of guys, and they were doing a lot of water projects at the time and this sort of thing. Eventually I joined, and then I realized that the reason I joined was not just for the fellowship, and not just for the lack of dogma, which is really attractive to me in Rotary. You write it all in 4 lines and put it up on the wall and hope that people read it. But if they can't read 4 lines, then it's going to be a tough sell. Those things, plus the service opportunities, really appealed to me. So what I did immediately, I joined the service committee and started looking around for projects. Started on the internet. I called people that I knew in Thailand. I called people in Cambodia that I knew, and I said, where are the issues and the potential for projects that you know about? Well, just about 4 months after I joined, or 5 months, the big floods, which you probably are well aware of, hit Thailand. A major 100-year event for weather and flooding, and that complicated by politics beyond belief. And I won't go into that either. But anyhow, there were a lot of villages, a lot of farm people, kids, schools, temples that were all inundated up to 9 feet deep in water for 2 months. So the vegetation was all gone completely. A lot of buildings, because the buildings there aren't very robust, came apart. It was just a terrible mess. So I went up there to a school that somebody had mentioned to me. And the school itself, there were many things wrong. They had a dormitory where they were keeping students. Now I find out that these are not students, these are orphans. And they live in the temple beside the school. So I looked around, and it was I think 30 girls in the girls' dorm, which was simply a big room with holes through the floor to the ground. The floods had removed all of the stair rails and anything like that, and it was very precarious and miserable. So we did a project up. I got funding from the club, and we fixed a whole lot of things, including taking down an old steel water tower that the base of, which was when they put it in, this was a government water tower project probably 50 years ago, and the base had been made of laminated steel. And the floodwaters, you think of floodwater as ordinary water. This water was so contaminated by chemicals that it left a rust brown stain on everything. All the houses, you could see exactly where the water line was, but it just accelerated the rusting in the base of that tower. So we had to get that down. And that turned out to be complicated and so on. But in any case, that project, eventually we provided books to the school. We fixed a lot of flood damage, and generally speaking, that was a good success, and it gave me heart that we could, that one guy with decent backup can do something. So went on from there. A Dutch friend who had started up with a group, an orphanage in Cambodia, approached me, and he said, "What do you think the chances of the club being involved in this are?" I said, "Well, show me." So we went to Cambodia, had a look, and since I'd been there before, I knew what I was seeing. So came back, club accepted it, and that turned out to be really good because I was able to raise funds in Canada for that project, and the Canadians themselves came over, so I took them to Cambodia, showed them, and they came back and said, "What else have you got?" So that was around the time I was trying to get the AIDS hospice that I mentioned previously yesterday, get that project going, and that was something that was right off the scale for anything that in normal society. Let me put it that way. This was a place where people who were rejected by their culture went to die, and it was bad news. Complicated now, though. They were in a small suburb, or Muban they call it, in Bangkok, and all the houses around them had started upgrading by raising their terrain around them so the floods wouldn't get them, leaving that rental house that they were in completely vulnerable. So now every time it rains, the place flooded. Runoff from the street, runoff from the other houses came into that house. So they'd often be wading around in water, absolutely unsanitary, and I'll show you the pictures in a couple of minutes just how bad that was. So I thought maybe we should move them out. I eventually phoned the landlady of the house, who lived in Boston of all things, and she said I would never give up. I would never stop renting this. It's my gift to society. And I talked to her for half an hour, and finally she said, "You know, my father owns the house. And in our culture, if the father decides something, I have to do it." And that was her way of telling me that she couldn't guarantee the rental. So that sealed it right there. We're going to move. We got a piece of terrain, and long story short, one anecdote that may be interesting. What can I say? Not motivated by Rotary, but inspired by Rotary in many ways. Talking to a guy from Bainbridge Island in Seattle, and he was a house designer. He builds houses. He builds bespoke houses on Bainbridge Island. And he said, "I want to do something in Thailand." He said, "I don't have a lot of money, but I want to do something." He said, "I can do engineered drawings." So I took him to the site, and I said, "How about? What do you think? What can we do here?" So he did the drawings. He did probably $3,000 or $4,000 worth of engineered drawings. It took him 2 weeks to do this. And I got those. I was able to get a good contractor, and I'll show you some pictures now of what transpired. So I'm going to do the screen share here now, Rushton, and if it doesn't go, I know you'll quietly shout at me. Hang on, please.
Not a worry, not a worry. We can get you through to that just fine.
Hang on, please. Okay. Two minutes.
Oh, actually, okay. A peace sign there, but all good. Yeah, go ahead and do the view on that.
I got 2 minutes left?
No, you got, I'd say 3 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, then. Okay, that's the project. I'm not going to let you scan that. It's not really important. That's funding and construction times. That's the city of Bangkok, yellow, and you see the new location away from the city in the countryside. That is the open sewer that was in the old location. That is a man dying in his bed beside the Thai toilet type of thing that you see here, and the water flowing into the sewer there. This is the lady that operated the place for 19 years. That was the so-called kitchen area, and this was the main ward of the place. This flooded. You can see the walls where the paint's all come off. That's basically the flood level that was there probably once a week in the rainy season at least. So she had 2 staff members. That was their single washing machine. There's that sewer over there, and you can see it again here. All of the sewer products from the toilet, from the washing machines, and the cooking all went into there. Okay, I've got to shift files here now, sorry for that. And I'm going to show you basically the outcome of the project. This is the building itself that we put up, and the purple color, I asked the lady, I said, what color do you want to have your roof? And she said purple. It's my favorite color. You can see her old truck here that she uses to take people to the hospital. And sorry, that'll work very well. Okay, there's what the new ward looks like. One of them, there's 3 of them now. You see these folks here, they have no energy, they can't do anything, they need to be waited on a considerable amount of the time. Not some of them are stronger than others, but that's the way they spend their lives, and 80% of them go out the back door. That's the way it is. One more picture. Oh, that's not a good one. Oh, there it is. That's what will become the cooking area eventually. A note on the fence. To put a masonry fence up would have cost 380,000 baht, or about $11,000. And instead, she said, I don't want that. I want 3 pieces of barbed wire, you see them, and I want a little privacy screen made from willows, what we would call willows. And that's what she got. Okay, I'm back. That project was indeed a huge success, and vindicated what I've been trying to do for about 3 or 4 years now, and it could not have happened without the support, without the framework of Rotary. Because of Rotary, we got money and we got results.
Very cool. Go ahead and click the stop sharing on that one, and then we'll get my micro off.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
I did it wrong there. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Have I got time for? Oh, 15 minutes is really, that's your deadline. And I've got just a couple of comments
Sure.
on Rotary. What I've learned from this is that most guys in Rotary, especially if they're working full time, have no time to do what I did. I had some time, so it's unreasonable to expect that from people. Rotary is an excellent framework for getting things done. There's room in Rotary for people to become more aware of project management and project management processes. And finally, the biggest problems with running projects like that is the situation analysis. People have a tendency to say, oh, that's terrible, let's do something, let's throw this money at it. And it doesn't work. The money's gone, there are no results because there were no outcomes or goals written down and understood by everybody. And the last one is, yeah, anyway, that's enough. Okay, that's it.
All right.
Ah, he's the man.
Fantastic. Thanks, Shags. So this is a story that's very much about what it means to be in Rotary, right? You know, everything that you've talked about, that sense that, you know, you're involved in the work that you do, you see needs, you think, okay, there's going to be a way to address this, that perhaps, you know, if I get other people involved, we can make these things happen. You get connected to, you know, a group, in this case Rotary, and, you know, they begin to show you that they are making things happen. And then, you know, you begin to see that there's that process within Rotary. So now people who are, especially like our group, you know, we have these new Rotarians in our eClub, and they're beginning to see that, you know, we're moving from, okay, you know, we're part of this group. It's an interesting crowd of people, and, you know, we're connected in some different ways. Mm-hmm. We're looking for different ways to help. We get involved this way, get involved that way. But to really make something big happen means taking on a much more concerted effort. You know, and I think it's inspiring to be able to see the kind of project that you put together in Thailand. You know, I think that for any society, that opportunity to really show how they treat the most vulnerable members of the society gives you the sense of whether things are moving in a good direction or a bad direction. So,
indeed.
Yeah, so having gotten your team involved in the club in Bangkok is wonderful. I want to introduce the group that we've got and then open up to questions. So moving across the screen, and I'll ask each of you to wave as I get to you, and then we'll start opening it up. We have our public relations chair, and also another Canadian, Chris Cochran in Ontario. We have next to Chris, we have Frank Trapicchio, our Rotary Foundation chair, who is in California. Next to Frank, we have Nate, who spoke to us a few weeks ago, telling us about musicians' efforts to make good things happen in the Tokyo area. Next to Nate, we've got Shags Shagrin. Shags is actually, I think it's going to be Shags next, but at any rate, so Shags waving there, dancing for the group.
Wave.
That's right. And Shags is our membership chair. And then we have others that are watching in from other spaces. So it is great to be able to share the story, and I want to open up to our group any questions they may have, Chip, for you, and to learn more about the projects that you've gotten involved with. So who we got first?
Not so much a question, but a comment. I love the thing you said about one Rotarian can make a difference, because I saw that in my original club in Youngstown, Ohio, Gerard Liberty, where a guy said, let's raise money for Poorest to the Poor and deliver clothing and supplies, medical supplies and toys, books all over the world. And it ended up happening, even going into Mother Teresa's mission with using a C-130. So Rotary does amazing things. They've never flown any military over Indian airspace, let alone land in India until that time. So I really admire what you're doing, and I'd love to see our club somehow get involved in a project like this. I know that we do have the challenges with, as you said, the actual implementation and the project management, but we certainly have technology. We have the people and technology to help get things done. And there you're serving the poorest of the poor, as you said, Rushton, the most vulnerable part of society.
Absolutely. Cool.
Kudos.
Next comment or question, who we got?
I'll throw something out there if that's all right.
Go, Nate.
Just Chip, if you can tell us a little bit. Chip and I have talked about this at length, but tell us a little bit more about the ongoing nature of the project, because you've finished it, it's successful, but there is ongoing support. I think you had mentioned what for the future of the place. What do you see happening?
That's a real issue. Before this project to relocate was realized, as it has now been, our club provided operating money for that organization because they got no government funding, and the woman herself, who had her mother had AIDS, so she took care of her mother, and then the mother died, and she started this place as an offshoot of that. So that's all she's done all her life. She's never married. She's only done that. And we provided we started with something like $300 a month to buy food, medicine, and so on. And that grew to now about $800 a month because costs have gone up in 19 years. But the whole problem of the accommodation was never really addressed. At one point there was a roof fix put in by our club, but that was not sufficient. So where's it going now? We're now discussing about the future in terms of what kind of support we're going to do. We really want to get out of the operations business, though. It's not really what Rotary's set up to do, and nor very few organizations are. It's the toughest thing to fund in the UN as well. Nobody wants to touch operations because it consumes endless cash and gives you no results because people are eating and consuming and the money's gone and nothing changes. You just sustain life. Sometimes that's necessary. In this case, it was. I might just add about the possible follow-on here. We're looking at a project to engage with a group that is involved in prevention, HIV prevention in Thailand. It's going to be extended to Cambodia, Myanmar, and probably Vietnam. And they had USAID, or the U.S. International Development Organization, funding up until last year. They had $250,000 a year. And not because they did anything wrong. They, from my judgment now, and I've seen quite a few NGOs since 1996, and this group is probably one of the best ones I've seen. But they ran out of money. So what they do is they identify where these cases are coming from, and they get them treated, and they get the word out about what's going on. It's in the youth population, young men, and Thailand's particularly bad because a lot of foreigners come in there because these guys are available, and et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, what our interest is now is in prevention, because we've taken care of one end of the scale. We've met some of the human suffering alleviation in that project that we did. And now we want to say, all right, from the other end, let's stop this, because otherwise it's never going to end, because there's people coming in the other end. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's what I'm hoping happens now, that we begin to fund them, and part of their obligation, if we give them a nice chunk of money, is that they fund the operations of Ban Bang Boon.
One of the things that's very important to our service chair, Martin Fox, who speaks very passionately about sustainability in projects, is that we look towards options for organizations that are doing good work but need a more reliable revenue stream than they might get from donations from clubs or people or anything like that. Our best example so far was a program that we had several months ago from a guy who runs an organization called H2 Open Doors, where the water filtration system that they're able to put together and install can be something that runs for 10 years, can cover a community of up to 5,000, and so any source of polluted water can come in, get properly filtered, it becomes potable, and then that drinkable water then becomes something that people can, if it exceeds their needs, then they can resell it to create a revenue stream. So it's very much our interest to help find those kinds of things as well in terms of innovation and service. I do want to make sure that Frank, you or Chris, if you have a question, you get a chance. We'll probably get time for one more question before we wind it down. So Frank, looks like you've got a thought. Go ahead and unmute your microphone. Let's get you in.
Okay. Thank you, Rustin. Thank you, Chip. Chip, are you and your Rotary Club planning to maintain a presence in the area where you have performed this project?
We won't abandon them for the operating costs until there's an alternative available.
Well, actually, my question was, are you planning to maintain your physical presence in the area where your club is located? You're in Bangkok, is that right?
That's right. Yeah. We're located in what would be considered dead downtown Bangkok.
Okay. So,
sorry. Go ahead.
Your club will continue to operate there, and your presence, as I assume you are the International Service Chair.
No, I'm just on the service committee.
Okay.
Yeah, I just stopped being club secretary, so.
Okay.
3 weeks ago.
Congratulations anyway on what you've accomplished so far. I guess where I'm going with my question is, did you write a grant for the funds that you received, and are you intending to write another grant for a follow-up or for the project that you just shared regarding education for HIV prevention?
Yeah, the follow-on that we have now, and this is only at this point, it's in discussion. It's not anything written on it yet. We have had meetings with the NGO, so yeah, there's a follow-on intended there. Now, I didn't hit the second part of your question. I'm not much sure.
Well,
Actually, I'll jump in on that one. So one of the things that Frank's pointing to, that I think this is a good message for everybody listening as well. Skip, this is probably, sorry, Chip, this is something you probably have already had some discussions with in your club. Is that when we think about that progression, you come into a club, you see needs, you get involved in different projects, you begin to think, okay, can we make something happen? But then you have to step forward to actually put in the time and energy to get a project moving. And then the question becomes, okay, well, is it just a matter of the time of the people in the club? And the answer is no. because with Rotary, one of the opportunities that you have is to be able to tap into the grant system that Rotary offers. And so it might well be that, a club in the Vancouver area where, Chip, I know you spent some time, our club, another club, somewhere else can partner with your club in Bangkok to be able to get a grant.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry, I missed that grant thread there. Two comments on that. The size of this project, we did what we needed to do there for about $30,000 US. Almost 20,000 of that came from a club in my hometown, Canadian club. Our club seeded $10,000, and then I met the guys from. I go to their club when I'm at home in BC. Secondly, it's not big enough for a grant. They want 30,000 as a threshold. Now, from the grant perspective, this project I spoke of, which is supporting the NGO that's doing prevention, that is going to be somewhere. I believe we should be asking for 150 to 200,000 for that project in order to give it some life and in order to give it to sustain it over at least 3 years. So we give us a chance to measure what we're doing and make some decisions about even doing another 3 years if necessary. So that is definitely going to have to be a grant.
Okay, so what you're describing, if I may follow up, person, what you're describing is a global grant.
Yeah.
And that would be something that I believe not only our club, but other clubs in our area who have expressed an interest in the past in supporting projects such as what you're involved with may be interested in supporting as well. If you could provide us, or through Rushton, either your framework for this project or the NGO that you're working with, their vision of this project, I'd be interested in providing whatever expertise I may have in global grants and see whether there is an opportunity for us to provide some support.
Outstanding. Thank you. Thank you. I will do that. Right now, I'm working with 2 other people in the club and I'll call him the manager of the NGO. There's, as you know better than me, I'm sure, the global grant information requirements and proper structuring are where we're at now and kind of grappling with that. I'm of the mind that if the project is substantial and we've done our planning properly, then the hurdles to be met from Rotary International or from the foundation will be easily crossed. We do need, though, the international participation, so I thank you for that.
Community needs assessment is a critical component of your application.
Excellent.
Indeed.
All right.
Indeed.
I'm sorry to jump in. We actually need to wind this one down. But I think first of all that we've seen a lot of the kind of energy that comes when people get together and begin to look at different ideas. Say, well, what's happened?
Indeed.
What have we been able to make happen so far? What can we push it to do? Going forward. And so thanks for the energy. I mean, we got a lot of we actually got a lot of veterans. Kind of in talking about that. In every sense of the term, right? So I want to first and foremost thank Chip for his presentation. Nicely done.
It is.
And then also to our entire group for joining in. Every week we work to have all kinds of information that can inspire others to see opportunities to make the world a little bit better for the folks around them. And I hope that you will join us next week and going forward in all of the different programs that we put out there. And if you have an idea for a program, feel free to let us know as well. We're happy to explore that. 2 things I need you to do before we finish up, and that's to do the I attended survey that is farther down on this post. Let us know that you are here. If you are a visiting Rotarian, having done that will allow you to get an email that you can pass along to your secretary so that your makeup to perhaps cover a missed meeting with your club is something that's covered. And then finally, leave a comment at the bottom. We love having people kind of engage.
Do I just scroll down to find that, or what do I do?
You will. As soon as we have this properly on our site for the week that this is the program. So,
Okay.
Chip, thank you
Well,
again.
let me say thank you in the Thai manner, which is Y with your hands together like this, and you say "Khop Kun Ka."
Perfect. And the perfect note to end this on as well. Chip, thanks again. Thanks, everybody. And we will look forward to seeing you next week here at the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley.
Thank you very much, Rushton, and all of you other gentlemen as well.